Hey there, it's Mackenzie, your host of Winning. We're looking for sponsors for the podcast. If you have a business that you would like to promote to thousands of people, send us an email at podcastwinning@gmail.com or send us a message on social media. I cannot wait to hear from you. Now on to the show.
Winning is your guide to making it in business. Join our award-winning host and entrepreneur, Mackenzie Kilshaw, and special guests in casual conversations that will educate and inspire you on your business journey. Winning will help you learn the hard lessons the easy way with guidance from celebrated entrepreneurs and business leaders. It's fun. It's informative. It's winning.
Hello, welcome to Winning. I am your host, Mackenzie Kilshaw. And my guest today is actually myself because it's an Ask Me Anything episode, but I have brought in our number one listened to podcast guest from our very first episode, Barry Firby, who, if you don't know, is my dad. Hi, Dad. How are you?
Well, I'm fantastic. I didn't know whether I'd ever get invited back for another podcast, so I'm really happy to be here.
Well, you know what? It's so funny because people always ask me questions on social media and through emails, and somebody suggested you should do an Ask Me Anything question. So a while ago, I posted and said, send me questions. And I'm like, it's going to be really boring if I just go on this podcast by myself and read questions and answer them. So I need a host. Well, who do you ask? You ask Dad.
All right. I'm ready to roll.
Okay, awesome. So yeah, these questions are all from listeners and people that follow us on social media that they've sent me and really asked, like, help, what do we do with this? So what we're going to do is Dad's going to ask the question and I'm going to give my answer. And any message that I get, if I get a DM or I get an email, I will answer you. So send them my way. I love helping people out and I love giving people guidance. And sometimes I'm not always right, and that's okay. But at least you're getting my experience and you can take it as your own. So Dad, I think just take her away.
All right. Well, one of the most important things in a business is the name of the business. And in your opinion, how do you go about naming a business, and what kind of catchy things do you think advice you might want to give in that respect?
Yeah, for sure. So naming your business, I think, is one of the hardest, but also one of the most important things that you can do when you're starting out. So my very first piece of advice is to make it personal and something that has a meaning to you. Because you're starting out your business, you're creating a brand for your business, and your brand is going to have a lot to do with you personally, right? So what are your values? What's your mission statement? What are you trying to accomplish, right? So it should be both interesting and it should tell a story. It should be unique, but still relevant to your business. And don't limit yourself. So I'll go through all these a little bit more. Personal or have a meaning. So when I started my first business, I had a women's clothing store. I wanted a real boutique atmosphere, so I knew I wanted boutique in the name. But what the heck was I going to name it? And my mom had passed away. I wanted something to honor my mom, but that was also kind of unique and cool. Wasn't really feminine or masculine. I really did only carry women's clothing, but I always wanted to leave room in the event that I had men's clothing. And I actually took my mom's birthday, which was February 25th, 1952, and wrote that down and saw 252 there. So the number's 252. It was written out. But that was also the telephone exchange of my hometown. And when I saw that, that was it. I remember calling Dad and saying, I have a name 252. And I think you said, what the heck is that? And then when I explained it, you're like, wow, that's awesome. And it became a story because people would ask me, what's 252, right? And so it became kind of the story of the business, part of my past, and was still interesting and kind of catchy for people. When I say don't limit yourself, remember that in today's day and age, the world is a really small place. And for a lot of people, especially if you're a retail business or a business that has the ability to sell online, you can have customers from all over the world. So I would say if you're located in Toronto, I don't think I would name my business Toronto's Boutique, because someone in New York City maybe doesn't relate to Toronto. So you're kind of limiting yourself there, if that makes sense.
That's fantastic. Well, listen, we know that the name of the business is critical, and it's something you really want to think about from the outset, but there has to be a lot of things that you need to deal with before you actually finalize that name.
Yes. Yeah. So don't pick a name and just go and get it registered and that's it. First of all, Google it. Google it and make sure that there's not another business with the same name, because guess what? They can sue you. If you use their name, you could have a lawsuit, which is probably not going to happen, but it could happen. So you want to make it, first of all, easy to find and easy to say. If people can't pronounce it, that's often trouble. If they can't spell it, that's really trouble, because how are they going to Google you if they don't know how to spell you? So those are two things I'd say right off the bat. Make sure that it's easy enough for the average person to be able to spell. The other thing is really important. You're going to want to look into the domain name, and you're also going to want to look into social media accounts. So if you can't get 252boutique.com, then you probably don't want to name your business that, because if your website is not the same name as your business, how are people ever going to find you? And same with social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all of the places that you're going to want to be, TikTok. If there's already somebody by your name, that's an issue, right? Because people are looking, Instagram really is a hard one, because if you type in 252 Boutique, but your handle is actually 252 Boutique Saskatoon, sometimes you don't always come up. Or if you're TFT Saskatoon and people type in 252, they're not going to find you. So you have to make sure that so your domain name, your social media accounts, and that no one else has your name. And I know that sounds like, well, how the heck am I ever going to find a name? You will. You will find it. Just Google it and make sure that nobody else has it the same. And then secure those. Once you have that name, and you can buy the domain name and you can set up your social media accounts, do it today. Because to buy a domain is like $20 a month or a year. Sorry. It's very inexpensive. And you might change your name before you get started. But if you don't, and then those are gone, you're starting from scratch again.
Mm-hmm. Well, one of the big things is finances. I mean, you obviously have to figure out your opening budget and all those kinds of things. But you really, really need to think about having an accountant, a bookkeeper, and some people, because you can't do everything yourself. So what's your advice there? Yeah,
so I got this question through social media, and it was about finding the right bookkeeper, the right accountant. And I'm going to tell you right now, if you are not an accountant or a bookkeeper, you better get one, because you can really mess things up for yourself if you're not keeping good records, if you're not filing your taxes, your GST, PST, if you're in Canada. Same will apply in the US or anywhere in the world, really. But how do you find the right one? And I would say it's just like finding an employee. Interview them. So ask them questions, right? Ask them questions about how they do things and see if you're a good fit with them. Because a lot of people think they found a good bookkeeper and then in the end find out it didn't work out, right? So I would just ask your network, ask your family and friends, ask on Facebook, hey, I'm looking for a bookkeeper and an accountant. Any suggestions? And start off by getting a list from people that you trust, right? And then once you find them and you've had a conversation with them, which I'd suggest by phone, I wouldn't suggest email, because sometimes questions come out of answers from other questions, right? But know exactly what you're getting from them. So what exactly is your bookkeeper going to do for you? Are they just going to do your books, or are they also going to do your payroll, calculate and file your taxes, do your year end? And literally ask them, are you going into my CRA account to file this, or do I have to? Because if you don't lay that out at the beginning and they think you're doing it and you think they're doing it, you're going to get a pretty nasty, letter from CRA saying you never filed this and you don't want to get behind, right? So really make sure that you know what you're getting, and you'll know, right? That feeling like, yes, this person's a good fit with my business. Take it from there. And if you work with someone for a while and they don't work out, find someone new. I mean, you don't have to keep your bookkeeper forever. I had great bookkeepers and I had not so great bookkeepers. And as soon as I knew they were great or not so great, I either kept them or changed them, right? So make sure you've got somebody right for you in that spot.
Mackenzie, one of the great challenges of small business is management of employees, your staff, etc. Yeah. Every once in a while, there's going to be a staff member that might do a great job, but the chemistry isn't right. How do you handle that?
Yeah. So another question I got through an email. I have an employee that I hate. What do I do? And actually, I kind of chuckled when I read it because in all transparency and honesty, like I always am, I had an employee that I did not like. And I'll tell you right now, you got to get rid of them. And that sounds really harsh, but rip off the Band-Aid, because if you don't get along with them or if they don't get along with other employees, they're rude to clients, whatever it is, that will be a cancer on your organization. And there could be catastrophic events, just to put it out there, that you cannot recover from. So what might happen is they might not get along with one of your best employees and that employee leaves. Now your best employee is gone and you have one that you don't even like. So as hard as it is and as harsh as it sounds, you have to get rid of them. I mean, have a conversation first. Like, I don't think you should just walk in and say you're no longer a part of our organization unless it's gotten that bad. But say, it seems like you don't get along with other people. It seems like you and I, there's something happening where we don't see eye to eye. It seems like I give you tasks and you're not accomplishing them. And have that conversation and see what the problem is, because maybe it's a simple problem that can be tweaked and then that issue goes away. And start there, right? But if not, if you've done that and it's not working out, then it's time for them to find somewhere else to work. And in all reality, be honest and just say you're not a good fit with our company. And, I'm sorry, but I'll have to let you go. And it's as simple as that, right? That sounds really simple. I know it's not because I've been there, but you have to look at it as a business decision and not a personal decision. A huge thank you to our sponsor, Just For You Day Spa and Wellness. Just For You is Canada's premier day spa with 5 locations in Alberta and Saskatchewan. The award-winning luxury spa features Leah Reese cosmetics and iconic Betty jewelry that you can also purchase online. Visit www.justforyoudayspa.com to book your service or to purchase a gift card.
In my many years of a lot of different businesses and ventures, you go into something and you think you know what you're doing.
Oh, yeah.
There comes a day when you don't know what you don't know.
That's correct. Yeah, you don't know what you don't know more often than not, than you know what you know. And a question was, how the heck do I know what I don't know, right? Research. You need to just research things, and you need to be continuously learning and developing skills. And, if you hear about something and you're like, oh, I don't do that in my business, Google it, right? And say, oh, maybe I should be doing this. Or, oh, wait, we do have this issue, whatever it is, right? Read, listen to podcasts. That's why they're here for you. But also ask for help. I mean, you might not think you have an HR problem, but maybe you ask someone that you know that's in HR to say, hey, could you evaluate my business? Could you maybe survey my employees and see how they feel here? Do they like working here? What has to happen? Even if there's not a problem, be really proactive on things, because something you learn today, you might not even know you need to know it, but it might help you down the line, right? So I would just say continuously learn, ask for help, do your research. Like you can Google, how do I run a coffee shop? And some like stuff will come up. So even if you don't know that you should know it, you can find out what you should know pretty quick just by doing some research and asking for help.
It doesn't matter whether you're starting a business or you've been in business for a while. The first time a customer walks into your store, you want that customer to come back a second time, a third time, and become a regular valued client. How do you build that loyalty?
Yeah, so there's a few really important steps to building loyalty with your customers. So your first step for sure is training your employees. So every person in your business that sees a customer or a client should be doing the exact same process. So when a client comes in, it doesn't matter if I help them, if Robert helps them, if Sarah helps them, they're going to get the exact same experience. That really goes down to training. You have to train your staff. When I hear people say like, oh, I hired somebody new and I just threw them out there, they'll learn, that makes me cringe because they'll learn not what you want them to learn. They'll just learn because they don't have a choice, right? So you have to train your staff. And that starts again with your values, your mission statement, and your staff have to believe that as well, right? So it starts there. Be honest and consistent with your clients. If there's a problem, just say, I'm really sorry that happened. I think we're going to talk a little bit about difficult customers here, but just be honest. I'm really sorry that happened. I didn't realize that was an issue, whatever it is. Consistency is key. You have to do things the same. You have to have policies and procedures. You have to let your customer know that every time that they come back to your business, they know what to expect and they're going to get the same thing. That's why people go to the same coffee shop every day, because they know what they're going to get, right? They know the person's going to be happy and smile and ask them how their day is. And they know that it's going to be clean and they know, right? That's why you go back to a place. It's why it becomes your favorite spot. The other thing too is going above and beyond, which at one of my businesses, I had a sign that said, go the extra mile. It's never crowded. And I just believe that to be so true because most places do just enough that they have to do so that you're like happy or satisfied. But I want you to be delighted. I want you to leave and feel so great about that experience. Not only that you come back, but also that you tell your friends and that, somebody asks on Facebook, where should I go for supper for a birthday? Oh my gosh, you have to go to this place. Best waiters and waitresses, best food. Like that's what you want, right? You don't want people to leave thinking, yeah, that was fine. You want them to leave thinking, wow, that was amazing. And then the other thing too is, rewards programs really work for loyalty. And every place has you go to the drugstore has a rewards program. You get a MasterCard from Walmart, they've got a rewards program. So look at different rewards programs. And for a lot of, even online, when I had my online store, I had a rewards program. So every dollar a customer spent, they got a point. And basically they could redeem point for dollars off. And so when somebody's going to order something, it's like, oh yeah, I got $20 off this order. So it entices them to come back again. So I think if you do, train your staff and let your customers know they're getting the same service, that they're going to be delighted and that they get a little perk from it, that's going to really be a winner.
Well, that kind of leads directly into the next question here is, how do you get your staff to do what you tell them to do?
Yeah, it's kind of a silly question because it shouldn't even ever be a question that your staff doesn't listen to them because you pay them. So you're paying them to do a job, first of all. So that starts with hiring the right people, right? So you need to hire people that believe in your business, believe in you, and that they understand your values and your mission And not only do they understand it, but they agree with it, so that intrinsically they want to do it. And live up to what you're preaching, right? Like, you don't tell your kid not to swear and then you swear in front of them. No, that's not what you do. You try really hard not to swear in front of them. If you're saying a value that we have is that we're transparent, we have open communication, you better be transparent and have open communication to your staff first and foremost, right? That builds trust, that builds loyalty, same as your customers. If they know what to expect from you and you do that for them, then they're going to agree with you and go along with you on your journey, right? So they need to want to support you. And that starts out with the right people and then really being dialed into your vision and your mission statement. And money is not going to make them listen to you. I'm going to tell you right now, giving someone more money or giving them a bonus will not entice them. If they don't believe in your business and in you, they don't care. That extra money is not going to make them listen to you. That's false if you think that's true. And the other thing is, if they don't, we go back to, I have an employee that I hate, then you have to move on from that person and you have to find somebody else. And don't be afraid if people leave your business, employees, or if you have to, if you have to let someone go, because there are a million other people that could fill that spot and do it better than one that's really unhappy. Because an unhappy employee, giving them more money is not going to make them happy. If they don't believe in your vision, they're not the right fit for you.
One of my favorite movies, there's a great line that said, "Show me the money." Yeah. And so what about sources of financing? You need to have that in place before you're starting that business. What can you share in that respect?
Yeah. So I had a person email me and say, I have my product all figured out. I know exactly how I'm going to sell it. No one will give me money. I can't start because I don't have the money to start doing it. What do I do? And I think the first thing is you need to have an amazing business plan. So I know we talked in the first episode, my business plan was like 1,000,000 pages long, but I did that because I had to prove to myself that I could do it. But also I had to show a banker, in all reality, that I had covered all of the, possible things that could go right, possible things that could go wrong. What am I going to do if this happens? What am I going to do if this happens? So that they knew their money was secure. So you need to start with a great business plan. You can get help with the business plan, like do your research, right? So go online, get help, message me and get help, find a business coach, whatever it is, starts out with your business plan. That has to be rock solid. No one's going to give you money if it's not. And I'm sorry to tell you this, and I'm sorry if any bankers are listening, but banks are not easy to deal with. And of course they're not, because they're giving you money, and usually large sums of money. They don't just hand it over. So start out by knowing that. Remember too, when you're researching, there's different streams of revenue. Obviously, banks are your first thing that everybody thinks of. Investors. So maybe it could be a family member, a friend, or maybe you know someone that has a business that would be interested in investing in your business. There's different corporations like BDC, that's Business Development Canada. Actually, I got financing through BDC, and their whole thing is that they finance small business in Canada. So there's lots of different places like that. Obviously, like I said, a bank, a loan. Maybe you have to take out a personal loan instead of a business loan. Look at that route too. And don't forget about grants, because there are tons and tons of grants. There's grants from private organizations, there's grants from government, and a lot of times you can get a very nice amount of money in a grant. And a grant, folks, you don't have to pay back. That is money that people give you. And so you don't have a loan to pay back, right? And in all reality, you're likely going to start out with a mixture of these things. So make sure that you do your research and look into all of these things, reach out to investors, reach out to banks, reach out for grants, and you might be able to accumulate your money, right? So that you don't just have one large grant. You've got a few, or loan, excuse me. You've got a few different avenues there.
We talked right off the start about naming your business and creating a name that's right for the product. But you need to have a visual presence of that. You obviously need to create a logo that speaks to the name of the business. And then you also have to figure out how you're going to brand that business, because logo and especially on social media type things and branding is part of the growth that you need. But you'll really need that at the outset as well. So what about those things?
Yeah. So how do you create your logo or brand? First of all, your logo and your brand are two different things. And lots of people just think their brand is their logo and their brand is their colors, if you have more than one, and your font. That is a part of your brand, your logo. So for winning, it's a light bulb, as in a light bulb moment, right? But that is actually just our logo. That is not our brand. So your brand needs to be something it's meaningful to you, but right back to that your brand is actually starting out with your vision. So what are you setting out to do? Your mission, right? What problem are you solving for people? It's the feeling that people get when they see your logo or they hear your name. It's your traits. So are you a polished brand? So is everything really professional? Are you a funny brand? Do you use humor in all of your things? Are you a trustworthy brand? Like if you're doing something in finance, you need to have that trustworthiness, right? Your colors play into that. Finance, green. Trustworthy, blue. Our winning, all of our stuff is pinks. And pinks are really delightful. Pinks are feel good, right? They make you feel good. And so you have to start out, if you don't know what to do here, like if you're like, I don't even know where to start to make my brand or where to start to get a logo, hire a professional. This is really something when you're first starting out, you need to get your vision, your mission, your goals, everything set out, what you want to do, because that trickles down, right, to your employees and that trickles out to your clients. You have to be rock solid on that to be successful. If you're not sure what you're doing, there's brand experts. There are people that will help you. And we actually have a branding episode. Now, I'm not sure when we're airing these, so you might not have heard it yet, but stay tuned because it's already recorded. But there are people that can help you with this. There's also websites. If you do know, by the time I made Winning, this was my third company I had. So I actually made the logo myself online on a website and paid for it. But I got help with the cover. I got my friend Sarah, a graphic designer, to make the cover for me because I was like, that's beyond my scope of what I can do. But make sure that you're really starting out with a rock solid brand and go from there. And making your logos fun because it really will represent you, which is really important.
Just FYI, you'll notice the pink background in Mackenzie's office. The pink background, proof.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
You know, there'll always come a day when you're first starting or even when you're into the business that you say, oh, crap, I have no clue what I'm doing on this particular thing. Where do I start? I need help.
Yeah. You're going to have these moments literally every day. If you don't have a, oh, shoot moment, I'm not sure what to do, then you're probably just coasting along. And listen, I thought I had it all figured out by year 6. And then in year 7, something called COVID happened. And literally it's like mass panic sometimes. And it will happen where you're like, I have no clue what to do. I don't know how to fix this problem. I don't know what I'm doing. What do I do? So if you're first starting out, you're starting with your business plan, right? So that's your first step. If this question is, I want to start a business, but I have no clue what I'm doing. Start with your business plan. That has to be rock solid before anything else is going to work. So start there. If you're already in business and you have this moment, or just starting out, ask for help. Do your research. Literally asking other people for help, listening to a podcast, reading, finding institutions. Like in Saskatchewan, where I live, there is a Sask Startup Institute. This is what they do. They help people get started. So there are organizations like this all over that you literally can go to and say, I don't know what to do. Or maybe you have your business plan and you're like, I don't know my next steps. Like, what do I do now? You can go to them and they'll help you. And Google is your best friend. Just like literally Google your question, because I guarantee you literally somebody else has already Googled it. And it doesn't matter if you haven't started your business yet, if you're in year 1, year 7, year 29, things are going to pop up that you don't know about, and just ask for help. There's no shame in it. I don't know why, as entrepreneurs and small business owners, we almost feel embarrassed asking for help. Like, I should know this answer, but it's not embarrassing at all. Get the help, because if you don't get help and you either try to figure it out or you don't do anything about it, that's going to actually be worse for you than just asking someone. And send me a message. I'll help you. Even if I don't know the answer, I can send you in the right direction.
Fantastic. Okay, so I'm a person that's starting a new business. I really have a great idea, and I'm really confident it'll work, but I don't actually have a sales background. So how do I learn to sell my product?
Yeah, so this happens a lot, and I did get a question from someone that's like, I want to start an at-home business by a product I'm creating myself, but I have no sales skills. I'm not even interested in sales, but clearly I have to sell it to make money. What do I do? So my first thing is learn to sell. So, take a course, read, listen to podcasts. There's so many things. Honestly, Google's your best friend, but learn to sell. Like, selling is definitely a technique. And when they say they're a natural born salespeople, I do believe it. But I also believe that someone with no sales background can learn to sell. Selling is literally features and benefits. So selling is, these are the features of my product, and finding out what pain point or problem your client has, and then how your feature is going to benefit them. So if somebody says, I'm cold, and you sell a heater, the feature is the heater warms up. The benefit is you're not going to be cold anymore, right? So you don't even need to tell them about other features of your product, because once you solve the problem that they're cold, they'll buy it, right? That's a very simple example, but it doesn't matter what you're selling. That example works every single time. So how are the features of your product going to benefit your customer? So start there. If you are really adamant that you're not a seller, you can't be a salesperson, maybe you're very introverted and the thought of talking to someone else just like makes you want to faint, hire someone. So hire a sales professional, and they can get you started. They can get you going. Maybe they stay with you for your entire business. Maybe you add more sales professionals. Maybe you don't. Maybe once things get going, you're like, I actually can do this, and you start doing it. But hire someone with expertise and experience in sales, because let me tell you, if you build it, they will not come. Like, you can make a really pretty website and have a social media, and if you're just posting pictures of products, your sales rate is not going to be very high. You have to tell people why they need to buy this, right? That's sales. So if you figure it out yourself, if you can't, hire someone else to help you.
Some young entrepreneurs are fortunate enough to enter into the family business or whatever, but many, probably most, are not. Most have really good corporate jobs, and it's a big step. How do you get the courage to move from that corporate job security to your own small business?
Yeah, so that was me. I had a great corporate job. I had a vehicle, a company car. I had 3 weeks of holidays. I had benefits. I had a pension. I had all the things that you could ever imagine. I had a really nice paycheck. And I just got to one day where literally I was like, I need to do something for myself. It was a feeling inside of me that I knew I had to do it. And I've joked about this before, like I could be the Nike spokesperson, but like you just have to do it. It is scary. It is scary. I'm not going to like rainbow sugarcoat this. I was scared shitless because I was single. I had no other income. If this didn't work, what was I going to do? And at the end of the day, if it didn't work, well, I would have just went out and got a job. Like I was still alive. I didn't die because it didn't work out, right? So the worst case scenario is never as bad as you think it is. Actually, that's something my dad always said to me. It's never as bad as you think it is. It's never as good as you think it is. But the worst case scenario is not life threatening, right? So you just have to do it. Now, in saying that, you need to research and know what you're getting into. Like, don't just say, like, I've got an idea for a business and quit your job tomorrow. No, like, get everything figured out before that. Some people do work simultaneously at their corporate job as well as have their business. And then once their business is at a spot that they know they can make it, then they quit. And if you can make that work, I think it's a good idea. But you kind of can run into problems there because what's your priority? Because I can tell you at your corporate job, your boss is going to think they're the priority. But if you need to be doing sales calls or doing things during the day, like how are you working that? So you really got to make sure you've got that figured out. Maybe it's something you can do evening and weekends and doesn't even coincide with your corporate job, right? But at some point in time, you need to be all in. It's really hard to run a business if you're on the sidelines. And if you don't have to be, like you need to be all in your business. And frankly, like save up. I mean, maybe you don't go on a holiday this year. Maybe you don't. Maybe you literally cut your spending. You say, I'm not going to concerts. I'm only eating out twice a month. And you really, no more Starbucks. Like those are all things I did that sounded kind of silly, but literally all of a sudden you've got money in your savings account for a rainy day that might be your mortgage payment, right? But just do your research. Know that you've got a solid plan and know that it's going to work and then make that leap. Please don't quit your job tomorrow because you have an idea. But yeah, I mean, you have to just do it. Just rip the Band-Aid and go.
Well, that's the last question that I have, but I have a piece of advice that I know I've told you many, many times. For anyone listening to this, it doesn't matter whether it's a customer, it doesn't matter whether it's a staff member, it doesn't matter who it is. There's one thing that I've always believed in, and that is that you only have one chance to make a first impression. So make it worthwhile.
That is so true, Dad. You get one shot. After that, they already know who you are. And if you didn't present your best self, you're probably in trouble. Thank you, Dad. I appreciate you doing the interviewing on this. And this was fun. Send me your messages. I love getting messages. I love it when you send me DMs. I love it when you send emails, whatever, comment on a post, because it really helps me too. And it helps me. What should we have on episode? So if you have an episode topic that you think would be great, pop me a message. I would love to hear about it. And I want to thank you again, Dad, for doing this. It's really special that you're able to help me out. I appreciate it a lot. And for everybody listening, thank you as well. And I'll see you on the next episode.
Thanks for listening to Winning. Be sure to subscribe to get all of our new episodes. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please share it with others. Post about it on social media and leave a rating and review wherever you listen to Winning. To catch all of the latest from us, you can follow Winning Podcast on Instagram at winning_podcast, Facebook at Winning Podcast, and on Twitter at Winning Pod. Winning was created and is produced by me, Mackenzie Kilshaw. Music created by Firby. Editing by Seth Armstrong. Special thanks to Shauna Foster for voicing our opening. Thanks again for listening, and I'll see you on the next episode.